Hello and welcome to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neal Howard. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our guest in studio today has treated thousands of people with CFS and fibromyalgia, CFS being chronic fatigue syndrome, including numerous teens over the last 30 years. And he says that it's a very heartbreaking experience for both the child and the parents to find out that maybe their child just hasn't been just lazy and uninterested. Maybe they're actually suffering from an illness. Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum is in studio today with us, lead author of 4 studies on effective treatment for fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome in children and teens. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Dr. Teitelbaum.
Yeah, pleasure to be with you again.
Thank you. Thank you. As a physician who's specializes in treating fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome in not only adults, but, teens and kids. Surely you're not the only physician that has, seen the light when it comes to CFS and fibromyalgia. Why isn't that everyone isn't on board and turning the tide now that the information is available?
Well, Neil, it's an interesting thing. And I tend to also be interested in medical anthropology, basically the history of the healing arts. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the things that got my interest in this illness in the first place was that I had the illness. I was on the other side of the white coat, as they say. And I was in medical school, and that was probably the most leisurely part of my life. And my family basically most of them had been in Auschwitz and died in Auschwitz. And I got caught in the middle of emotional meltdown that my family was going through, and I was in medical school and had the stupidity to try to get in the middle and mediate it. And all of this basically crashed me. So when I came down with a nasty viral syndrome, and my atypical lymphocytes were about 38%, I mean, it was a clear, horrible virus, but I didn't recover. And I had to drop out of medical school. They thought I was depressed because, the virus had been gone by now. And they called it depressed med student syndrome.
Wow. Okay. If you can stop for just a moment. Depressed med student syndrome?
Yeah, if you don't know what's wrong with a person. And then medical school, Yeah. But it was, God bless, my professors were sweet. I mean, they were loving people. But I found myself homeless and sleeping in parks. My work study was gone, my scholarship, my loan, and I was homeless. And I figured my life was gone. But it was funny. It's as if the universe put a homeless medical school sign on my park bench. And doctors and other people from other branches of the healing arts, nutritionists, all kinds of folks would come by and we chat. And each of them gave me a piece of the puzzle, as it were. And sometimes if they had a pizza, I even ate that day. And it was, but it was incredible education, and I was able to cobble together these different pieces and actually put together a treatment protocol for myself that where I was able to recover and went back to med school, and I did great. And I spent the last 35, 40 years researching and treating this illness and getting the information out about it. But as to why there's just an uptick in awareness among physicians, you'll see with most illnesses that go through a cyclic pattern. For example, rheumatic fever, very cyclic, even Clostridium difficile. Many of these things go through cycles of increasing and decreasing prevalence, or of even, showing themselves where they were very rare illnesses. And fibromyalgia, by the way, affected Florence Nightingale, Dr. Nobel Prize, John F. Kennedy, a number of people, but it tended to be very much the overachievers. But as the speed of modern life has increased, and as there have been loss of nutrients in the diet, and just increased chemicals, just a host of more challenges for our bodies to face, we are seeing more and more people go through an energy crisis and blowing a fuse. Basically, the circuit breaker is an area in the brain called the hypothalamus. It uses more energy for size in the area of the body. Energy crisis, it goes offline. It's like triggering a circuit breaker. This has now gone from being very, very rare to affecting 2 to 4% of the population. Whenever you have a new illness, especially if there's not a single test that's abnormal only in that, and there are countless tests that are abnormal in this illness, but not only in this illness, it overlaps with other conditions. And because of that, especially since it's an immune illness that affects predominantly women, as most immune illnesses like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, MS too, doctors tend to say, instead of, I don't know what's wrong with you, I'm sorry, they say, I don't know what's wrong with you, you're crazy. And it takes a while for doctors to kind of realize that we should take our foot out of our mouth, and to acknowledge it. And some of the older doctors, it's funny, like I said, multiple sclerosis used to be called hysterical paralysis. And many doctors who did, when it turned out to be a devastating illness called multiple sclerosis, many doctors went to their graves unable to acknowledge that, God, did we mess up? But the nice thing is that new doctors come in, and now with half of doctors being female, that bias where women's illnesses tend to equal neurosis. And look at the word hysteria. It comes from the Latin hystero, uterus. And it tells you where doctors are thinking. So that's changing. With more women coming in, they're just not willing to buy it. More younger doctors coming in, they see these people. They knew these people often before they got ill, and they realized these are really high-powered, caring, bright people who run off a cliff. And they're not willing to buy into this, I don't know what's wrong with you, you're crazy. So many older doctors have compassion, and they're coming around to it. The newer doctors are coming into it, not willing to buy into, I don't know what's wrong, you're crazy. So doctors are coming too, and it doesn't hurt. There are now 3 medications, Lyrica, Cymbalta, and Savella, where the drug companies are collectively spending $210 million a year advertising these medications for fibromyalgia, half direct-to-consumer, half direct-to-physician, which certainly increases doctors' awareness. And so here we are. We're now on the threshold of being able to help over 12 million Americans, 2 to 3% of the population worldwide who are crippled. These are now effectively treatable if the doctor is willing to take the time to learn. And we'll go over today how you can help your people with these illnesses to get healthy, get their lives back.
Effective treatment is now available, and you say that doctors are finally starting to recognize CFS as a diagnosis in their patients who are teens and adults. When I talk with healthcare professionals, I often discover that there was almost no or very little training in med school concerning nutrition. In other segments, you've talked about our calories coming, about 18% of our calories coming from sugars, about the lack of nutritional value in the foods that we're consuming today. In your opinion, how could integrating an education of nutrition along with the CFS kind of kill a couple birds with one stone and kind of get this ball rolling for the next generation?
It's fun. I remember when I was in medical school, my entire nutrition training, I went to a really good school, consisted, they gave me a sheet of paper with the RDAs, recommended daily allowances, I call it ridiculous dietary allowances, and they said, as long as you're eating a good, well-rounded diet, and they made this thing sound really easy, this statement, then you don't need to worry about this because it's never a problem. I said, oh, good, one less thing that I need to worry about. I put on my 4-foot stack high of things I needed to eat sometime in my life, for medicine. So that's it. And it's really pathetic. And what they didn't say is that when you tear that statement apart, that if you eat a well-rounded diet, have no medical problems, that it excludes over 90% of the population. The research has shown that over 90% of the population is deficient in at least one key nutrient, and it's really higher than that. Why? Because we've lost 50% of the vitamins and minerals that are present in food processing relative to what used to be present 500 years ago. So I think it is a good idea, instead of worrying about each one, I recommend a good vitamin powder. The one I use is called the Energy Revitalization System, easy to find on Amazon and Petite.com, most health food stores. One scoop replaces 35 supplement tablets a day. But also cutting back sugar. One of my books is called Beat Sugar Addiction Now, or The Complete Guide to Beating Sugar Addiction Now. For people with CFS and Fibromyalgia, they need more salt and more water. If these people salt restrict, they will crash and burn.
Without salt?
They need salt. They need a lot of salt. Because the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, we talked about that blowing the circuit breaker called the hypothalamus, that controls sleep, temperature regulation, hormonal function, autonomic function. When that goes down, the hypothalamic pituitary axis goes down. So the adrenal function is underfunctioning, not enough to be Addison's disease and kill him, but enough to really cause low blood pressure and aggravate the autonomic problems. So they stand up, they get lightheaded, and they have trouble holding on to salt because the antidiuretic hormone is low. So you need to increase salt and water intake a lot. And that's just one of many treatments. So for those that are listening, for both practitioners and for people with the illness, again, simple tools. To make this easy, I actually hold a U.S. patent for computerized physician. And this is part of my way of making effective treatment available for everybody. People can go to the website www.endfatigue.com. And the E-N, like Nancy, D like David, fatigue. You'll see the energy analysis program. People can take a free quiz, or their practitioner can have the nurse fill it out for the patient. They can enter in the lab tests if the lab tests are available, pertinent lab tests, and it'll assess to say, here is what the underlying causes are of the energy drain in the body, so you can optimize energy, which is how you recover from these illnesses anyway. So that's free. We made that as kind of free to the public so that everybody can get what they need. And we do consult with people from all over the world, often by phone consultations. Many people are too sick to travel to work with their doctors and to work with the person themselves to help them get their lives back. But we also have courses. There's an online course. If you go to the endfatigue.com site, you'll see a link for practitioners. It'll take you to the Practitioner Alliance Network. This is where we have over 600 doctors and health practitioners from all branches of the healing arts. And I'm encouraging them to talk to each other and to share notes about this disease and otherwise. But there is an online training course that practitioners can take. It's an 8-hour course that will make people an expert in treating these illnesses. So for doctors that are interested, that's a simple way to do it. My book on fatigue is fantastic. It has hundreds of studies referenced. It'll go through, it's like a textbook on CFS and Fibromyalgia, but it will also make people an expert on how to recover from and how to treat these illnesses.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neal Howard, and we've been in studio talking with Dr. Jacob Teitelbaum, Director of the Practitioners Alliance Network and one of the most frequently quoted integrative medical authorities in the world. Also the author of the best-selling From Fatigue to Fantastic, Pain-Free 123, the Beat Sugar Addiction Now series, Real Cause, Real Cure, the Fatigue and Fibromyalgia Solution, and the popular free smartphone app, Cures A to Z. And we've been in studio discussing furthering the education of our physicians so that misdiagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome will be a thing of the past, and also talking about the effective treatments of CFS and fibromyalgia in not only adults, but in our teens and young kids. It's been great having you here with us today, Dr. Teitelbaum.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Transcripts and audio of this program are available at healthprofessionalradio.com.au and also at hpr.fm, and you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes.